Hello, I'm James Andrews, reporter with Food Safety News. I'm here at Food Safety Summit 2015, and I've got Darin Detwiler with me. Darin is adjunct faculty at Northeastern University, where he teaches regulatory affairs of food. He's also the senior policy coordinator at STOP Foodborne Illness.
Yes.
So, Darin, you're here at Food Safety Summit doing what I consider a pretty important job. You are bringing a consumer perspective to this meeting that's predominantly attended by industry people, government officials. Why would you say it's important for people at an event like this to be reminded of the consumer perspective when it comes to food safety?
I think the best way to answer this is that there are two key phrases I've heard throughout this conference so far. One is the emphasis on a partnership in food safety or partnership in food protection. The other is the culture of food safety. When you talk about this partnership and about this culture, yes, it's impossible to not look at the policymakers at the federal, state levels, even international, territorial, etc. And you're going to be looking at industry, whether it be the food industry or the food science, food protection industry. But to not include the consumer in that partnership or in that idea of culture, that eliminates a very important element of that whole idea of farm to fork. One thing that was mentioned earlier is that we say food safety, but it really is about people safety. You know, we're not doing this solely for the benefit of the industry, solely for the benefit of the retailer, solely for the benefit of the farmer. It is also there in terms of the public health issue, what the consumer expects, what the consumer will do in terms of where they vote with their dollar, the assumptions they make in terms of food safety, and again, the idea of a family being able to put dinner on the table without having a side of fear.
And I should mention that you've been personally affected by foodborne illness in the past. You lost your son in the 1993 Jack-in-the-Box E. coli outbreak, and so these days you spend a lot of time talking with government, working directly with the FDA, USDA. Could you tell me a little bit about what you see your role or how you see yourself being most useful working with government?
I think it's about balance. When we have public hearings, when we have meetings, you have various stakeholders at the table, and it's very easy for me to find that the good majority of non-government stakeholders at those tables are from the industry. I think their voice is important, but also important is the voice of the consumer, whether it be a family who has lost a child, whether it be a family who is living with long-term medical consequences, long-term illness, whether it be a victim, him or herself, that is bringing that reality to that table, that true burden of disease. Without that, it's almost like we're losing the whole reason why we're doing this. When we talk about things such as exceptions or defining the rules or extensions, exemptions, the consumer doesn't buy a product and go, I wonder if they have an exemption or not, or I wonder if this is from a small, very small or large manufacturing or producer. I wonder if this is regulated under GSF or ISO or so many things that, and of course, as I've said before, I talk to audiences that they don't even know that the Food Safety Modernization Act exists. There's a great assumption that all stakeholders from farm to table are doing their job, are following, are in compliance with rules, are looking at how they could best be doing their work. And again, making sure that those assumptions are shared, making sure that those stories in terms of where there are gaps, where there are weak areas, and I think also just that reality in terms of the frustrations that some people have out there in terms of the information they do or don't have, the resources they do or don't have, and the help post-illness, post-event that they expect to find and sometimes don't.
Well, Stop Foodborne Illness tries to, bridge that gap of help. you guys are well known for reaching out to victims of foodborne illness, family members, perhaps parents who have lost their children. How important is that to the work that you do? And can you walk us through a little bit of how that works, how you get in touch with people, how
Sure.
you counsel them?
Rarely do people call us directly. We do get occasional an email or a call from people. They've looked us up. They looked up information and came across some resources that we put out. But many times we will look at the news. We'll look at what's out there. We'll find information about people who are sick or who have, in many cases, buried a loved one. And one of the things that I do is, because I've personally been through that, I try as often as I can to place a phone call with a family who has buried a child. And I can't say that I know exactly what they're going through, but I know a lot of what they're going through. There are certain things that a family in that situation, they just can't share everything they're feeling, everything they're dealing with the people they work with their friends, even with their family. There's a point beyond which those people, those family and support group and friends move on, yet the family that's most directly affected by a foodborne outbreak, an illness event, is impacted forever. And so to be able to share that, to be able to listen to frustrations, to their fears, whether it be about the holidays coming up and what do you do about an empty chair at the table, to how am I supposed to carry on as a father when I have a young daughter who misses her older sister. Where am I supposed to go to for these resources? Should I talk to a lawyer? What would be the purpose of it? How come I can't get this information from the county health department? How come I can't get a hold of anyone at the USDA? So whether it be issues pertaining to missing information, lack of resources, or sometimes just validation. I'll have these conversations, and they'll call me back, update me on what's going on. It becomes more of a discussion between the two of us, a conversation. And no two cases are exactly the same. I also field questions from people who maybe 5 months, 5 years, 10 years down the road from having survived a foodborne illness, and a mother will say, I've got these questions, I'm worried about this, and I can't find these resources. Do you know of anyone else out there who has been through this situation? So we're able to partner some people. I can get on the phone or email, hey, I have someone who has questions I think you might be able to answer, or would you mind partnering with this person, not counseling, but just again, validate with some information, share some information, some insight that you have. And my job pretty much is listening and helping people and telling their stories and making sure that I do anything and everything I can to make their voice as strong as possible.
Well, Darin, I think you're doing really important work here. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to speak with me.
Well, thank you very much, and it's good to see you at an event like this, and I look forward to working with you again in the future.
All right.
Thank you very much.